Hello，你好，Welcome back，欢迎回来to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger on July 14, 2021. Oh, I've had a long day today. I had to get up early to get some contract work done for the government, and then have to make a trip to the post office, and then go pick up some batteries from my hearing specialist. And on top of that, I also got my second shot. I got my second Pfizer shot vaccine today. So right now I'm feeling slightly sore and slightly feverish and achy, but that is all part of the course, so normal. Um, so yeah, anyway, other than that, I'm feeling pretty decent. Now, some of you may have noticed that uh, uh, the camera, the screen looked a little bit different today. There's a reason for that. Um, Yesterday, when I went to record Tactical Tuesday, I realized that they did something wacky with YouTube. Normally, when I make videos, I just turn on the YouTube app on my iPhone and go to create and then record new video. And that was that. Well, yesterday when I went to do this, there was no record button. I don't know what they did with it. I don't know what's going on, but there's no longer an option to record video on YouTube app. On YouTube app, so now there's a record short uh, button, and that allows you to record a video for like 15 seconds or 60 seconds. But as most of you know, that's pretty much useless. For me, for this daily video, most of our daily videos are way longer than 15 seconds or 60 seconds. So yeah, no shorts here. Sorry, we only do long videos. Um, so I want to take this chance to apologize if you watched Tactical Tuesday and the sound quality was really bad. I noticed that after I finished the video because I ended up having to use iPhone's own camera app. And I did not know this, but when you record a video using the camera app on the iPhone, it doesn't recognize uh, external microphone, like from your Bluetooth headset or anything. It's using the microphone on your iPhone. So of course that resulted in me sounding like I was extremely far away from the microphone because I was, on the other end of the room. Uh, so yeah, that was a little bit of a blooper there. However, after hours, and I'm not even exaggerating, after hours of trying different apps and doing research on Google on how to solve this problem, I finally found a solution in an app called Movie Pro, which, by the way, cost me $14. And yeah, so anyway, had to purchase that. But hey, if it allows us to continue with our daily video, I guess it's worth it. So Movie Pro allows you to set your audio track to stream through your Bluetooth device. So that's why I hope, anyway, we are sounding a lot more clear, a lot more like the normal in today's video. However, there's several problems with this Movie Pro. First, it's not very blind friendly, so uh, it's a struggle to try to use it. And second, I can't seem to get the camera to flip over to the front camera. So it seems to be set or stuck on using the back camera. So I don't know if that makes any difference to the rest of you. Uh, if it looks different, if it's not watchable, please let me know and I will continue to research for a better solution. Give me feedback. Okay, this is new app. new angle of recording, new everything. So let me know if this works. Speaking of new things, what else have you guys noticed that is new? If you say, hey, wait a second, what happened to the beautiful Chinese music you usually select for Wisdom Wednesday? How come we got rock and roll music in the background? Well, it's because today I want to talk a little bit about the history of rock and roll for Chinese people. Rock and roll in Mandarin is called 摇滚乐，摇滚乐. That's YOW GWOON and YAI 摇滚乐. 音乐 YINGYAI 音乐 is music 音乐 and 摇滚乐 is rock music. Now, when it comes to rock and roll and its relationship with Taiwanese people, Cantonese people, Chinese people, if for those of you that have been paying attention to the Johnny Tiger Experience podcast, you might have noticed a segment there called Melodies of the Orient, where I showcase talk about a lot of popular Chinese singers and Chinese superstars that I like or I pay attention to. And you might have noticed that uh, when we talk about Chinese music, it seems like there's no country music, there's very little jazz music, there's very little rap music. Primarily, when you listen to Melodies of the Orient, you either hear pop music, love songs, ballad, uh, sometimes a little bit of folk music, but primarily you will hear a lot of rock music, a lot of rock and roll music, classic rock, heavy metal, etc., etc., etc. That's a very big scene in Chinese music nowadays. That has not always been the way it is, and honestly, for people from China, especially rock music, is something that's relatively new, or something that they didn't get exposed to until much, much later than a lot of other people, uh, especially compared against Cantonese people. Hong Kong, being under British rule for the majority of the 20th century, had very directly being influenced by Western music. This is why, if you see a Chinaman, I just said Chinaman, but if you see someone from China and a Taiwanese and a Cantonese walking to a bar together, it sounds like the beginning of a bad joke. But if you have these three different types of Chinese people walking to the bar together, the Cantonese person is going to be the most versed in Western music. May it be rock or country or jazz or R&B or all that stuff. The Cantonese person is going to know the most kind of music and is going to have the most wide variety of musical taste because of being ruled by the British for such a long time. A lot of Cantonese people were exposed to all the music, all the culture, pop culture that a British person would have been exposed to at the same timetable. So you can say that Cantonese people has always been the most fashionable, the most up to date, the most current of all the Chinese different Chinese variations out there. And then we have the Taiwanese. Now Taiwanese people uh, was exposed to rock and roll music in late 70s, early 80s, and as far as I can remember, and I have mentioned these two guys on the Johnny Tiger Experience podcast. The primary forefathers of Taiwanese rock and roll music belong to the title would belong to a guy named Chief Zhao and a guy named Wu Bai. These two are no stranger to most Taiwanese people, even my generation. Most Taiwanese people would have heard of them, would have loved their music, or even sing a lot of their songs. These two were the first to bring rock and roll into Taiwan. However, Taiwanese people have placed a very big stigma on not just rock and roll, but guitar players in general. That is quite ridiculous and unfortunate because of the early days of music development in Taiwan in the late 70s and 80s. The only places that would allow these rock and roll upstarters, these rock and roll, we can say, forerunners, to have a performance. The only places I would hire them were nightclubs and bars and places where there's a lot of gambling, drinking, whoring, fighting, killing, shady businesses going on. That was the starting point of rock and roll music in Taiwan in these dark club filled with sweaty bodies and drunken, rowdy people and a lot of sex trade and drug trade and alcoholism going on. So that resulted in people associating anyone who want to do rock and roll music, anyone who like rock and roll music, and anyone who even uh, have any traits of rock and roll stars. People associate them with crime and corruption and uh, evil doings, kind of like the attitude people had about rock and roll in the Western world back in the 60s when Beatles, Elvis, and those people first tried to make a name for themselves. People back then would say rock and roll as a music from hell, is the music of the Satanism. It was the devil's workshop. So unfortunately, this attitude uh, got carried over to Taiwan as well. So when I was growing up, listening to rock and roll music was a sure way to get you uh, trash talked or looked down upon by elderly people or the previous generation or people from high society. Even when I was a teenager and I really started getting into rock and roll, I've talked about this during Music Monday before that my first specialty in music was classic rock. And even today, I still say that I have a lot of passion for rock music. And so when I was a teenager, when I first started getting into rock and roll music, I have to face a lot of these crazy, crazy stigmas from aunties and uncles and grandparents and teachers. Everyone told me that that was a way to a drug addiction, to crime, and it's so crazy that in Taiwan, uh, a lot of people do not like it when people play guitar. Uh, I mean, when we talk about guitar in Canada, in the US, in the UK, in Mexico, in even in the Philippines, in Hawaii, like in Japan, guitar is like, wow, that guy plays guitar. That's really cool. That's such a cool guy. He's so awesome. He plays guitar. He sings. He's awesome. That's the kind of vibe you get. But when you are in Taiwan, playing guitar is it's like some people like people your own age group may think you are really cool, but people from the previous generation or people who think they're from the better part of society, their kind of comment is going to be, "Oh, that guy! Look at that! he's playing guitar. I mean, he's going to end up being homeless. That's why he should. I hope he's good at his guitar because he's going to have to play on the streets. Uh, he's going to become an alcoholic. You know, so there's a lot of very negative view. Even my own mother, to this day, she doesn't really care for it when I play guitar, and my father. He played guitar once upon a time himself when he was young and rowdy, but even now he doesn't really feel that guitar is that great of an instrument. So guitar, as a relation to rock and roll, has received a very negative and unfair kind of stigma in the Taiwanese culture. Now, let's look at what happened in China. Out of the three, Hong Kong, Taiwan, China, China started their rock and roll journey the latest. For a very, very long time, between the end of the Second World War and all the way into 1980s, Chinese people had to censor their music. The government there, the communist government, was very strict on every facet of life because they believe that if you want to have a simple, obedient, loyal, patriotic lifestyle, then every facet of your person, every thing from the things you eat, from the things you think about, from the things you read, from the music you listen to, have to reflect that. So for almost 50 years, Chinese people from China, that just sounded kind of strange, Chinese people from China, uh, we'll just say Chinese people from this point on. Chinese people did not have a lot of experience with different type of music. They listened to patriotic songs and war songs and songs that talk about inspirational songs, and that's about it. Even love songs was mostly a no-no. I hear a lot of older generation Chinese people say that back in the 70s, when Taiwanese people and Cantonese people were coming up with CDs upon CDs of love songs and pop songs, if they wanted to listen to those songs in China, they have to do it like behind closed doors. They have to sneak around behind people's back. They have to listen to it with headphones on and not let anyone know that they're listening to it because it was technically illegal uh, to listen to music like that. Listen about love, listen about relationship. Uh, it was a good recipe to get yourself taken away by the police and to put through some very crazy courses of brainwashing to make you forget about all that mushy love and romance nonsense and to bring you back to become a patriotic Chinese person. Like it was that bad in China for the longest time. So of course there were people who played guitar. There were some people that play what passed as rock and roll, but they were not getting anywhere in China because it's so illegal. Like you can't even call yourself a rock and roll player without getting into legal trouble and getting arrested by the government back then. All this changed in 1986. 1986, during a concert Chinese government put on in honor of the World Peace Conference. Uh, they invited 100 bands to perform at the concert. Each band would only be allowed to sing one song. And so, for the entire concert, you would have 100 songs at least. There was a guy by the name of Cui Jian. Cui Jian. Cui Jian was a young man with his own band. He was actually, I believe, a trumpet player. He wasn't even a guitar player. Cui Jian and his band were waiting in the backstage when the officials came and told him we cannot let you on stage because the song you chose to perform is not um, up to our standard. So you either have to go home, take your band and go home, or you change your song selection. You give us another song. Cui Jian and his band, they didn't know what they were going to do. So Cui Jian, being a very creative person, made up a few lines of lyrics on the spot and made up the melody on the spot and said, here, I'm going to perform this song called I Have Nothing Left. For the most part, during the entire World Peace Concert, most singers were performing their traditional, patriotic, inspirational, country-loving songs. They were playing it safe. When Cui Jian came onto the stage and opened his mouth and screamed out the first verse of I Have Nothing Left, the entire concert, the entire audience froze and started to cheer because no one until that point has sang uh, in a rock and roll style on stage in this kind of setting in China. Cui Jian decided, well, hell, they rejected our song, so we have nothing to lose. If I go on stage, I might as well do something totally unexpected. So he wrote a rock and roll song and went on stage and threw it all out there, bellowing at the top of his lungs. I'm going to include uh, a link to the original song, I Have Nothing Left by Cui Jian, in the video description, so those who are interested can click on it and listen to the how it sounded back then. It's quite a simple song, but it definitely uh, ignited, I guess that's a good word, ignited the rock and roll loving soul in Chinese people. After that night, rock and roll became something great. It became something wonderful in China, and it just went through China like wildfire. And every uh, family, every child wanted to learn how to play electric guitar and how to sing like Cui Jian could sing. And everyone's writing these lyrics, simple lyrics about love, about life, about rejection, about regret. Uh, it totally changed the entire direction of Chinese music industry. So you see, sometimes in just like many facets of life, if you just play by the rule, if you just play within a safe square or a box other people set for you, then you might not get anywhere. If Cui Jian decided to go on stage that night and sing like all the other singers, do another patriotic song, do another song about how great the president was, do another song about how much he loved his country, if Cui Jian was not daring enough to step outside the box and say, "Oh heck, they, what's the worst they can do to me? The worst they can do is arrest me and put me through another round of brainwashing." If Cui Jian did not act outside the box, think outside the box, and had the creativity to come up with a new song on the spot, Chinese people might still not have rock and roll music today. I hope that this has been entertaining, if not strictly inspirational or all that meaningful. Thank you for being here with me. I hope this new setup is okay, and we'll be back again tomorrow for Toys Thursday. For now, have a good night, and 再见.